Mouse Rebel News fans, as few people really know right now, this has just broken on the media, say about 2 days ago. A ton of people have gotten together and filed a class action lawsuit against Obama, Eric Holder, Alexander McAdams, Vincent, Verizon, the Department of Justice, the NSA, over wiretapping and handing over phone records. Now, these people who have filed a class action suit against the president, all these other members of the government, a judge, the Department of Justice, and the National Security Agency are seeking $3 billion in compensation for what is being done to them. Obviously, the magnitude of this, I don't have to explain. I mean, we understand how serious it is to actually list the president as a defendant in such a huge lawsuit, one of $3 billion. Now, obviously, the American people, their rights have been massively infringed upon because of this. However, this is the kind of thing that we all know that, this is wrong, this shouldn't be happening. This is a symptom of the ruling class seeking tighter and tighter control, and the people are striking back with whatever means they have. Unfortunately, they're striking back with an at-law lawsuit. And why this won't work, I'll get into that, but what they are alleging is severe breaches of the Constitution. In fact, it actually says this is an action for violations of the First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendments to the U.S. Constitution. This is also an action for violations of privacy, including intrusion upon seclusion, freedom of expression and association, due process, and other illegal acts. Plaintiffs bring this action on behalf of themselves and all other similarly consumers, users, and U.S. citizens who are customers and users of the defendant Verizon Communications, herein known as Verizon. Meaning they are specifically saying that Verizon does bear some responsibility for what has happened here, which is why the telecommunication provider Verizon is listed as the defendant in this case. But what's partly unique about this is that a U.S. Foreign Intelligence Service Court, a judge from the U.S. Foreign Intelligence Service Court, Roger Vinson, is being listed as a defendant. It says the order issued and signed by Judge Robert Vinson violates the U.S. constitutional and also federal laws, including but not limited to the outrageous breach of privacy, freedom of speech, freedom of association, and due process rights of American citizens. Now, the defendant Vinson ordered access to electronic copies of the following tangible things: all call detail records, telephony metadata created by Verizon Communications between the United States and abroad. Defendant Vinson, in an attempt to keep his, this is what they allege, to keep his illegal acts and those of other defendants as a secret, further ordered that no person shall disclose to any other person that the FBI or NSA has sought or obtained tangible things under this order. Meaning, if these allegations are correct, and I would tend to think that they are, they're trying to cover the tracks, meaning that no person involved in this can be made public. So you can definitely see that there is a pattern of trying to keep this kind of thing secret. Obviously, this got leaked to us, the public, through whoever it was. I don't think that person has ever been identified. Now, unfortunately, what they've decided to do, the people who filed the lawsuit decided not to go with a lawsuit in equity. Instead, they've decided to stay at an at-law court, civil court. And I think this was a massive mistake on their part, because they're just not going to win because they are allowing the technicalities of the law to determine what the outcome would be, as opposed to a court of equity, which would be the conscience of the law, which would be a far better choice, in my opinion, and many other people as well. Now, in section 72 of the fourth claim of relief, this definitely shows that this is not taking place in a court of equity. Let me explain. This is exactly what it says. The only purpose of this outrageous and illegal conduct is to intimidate the American citizens and... Okay, wait, I screwed that up. Here's why the lawsuit won't go anywhere. I mean, here's why that they actually can't win. Section 72 of the fourth claim of relief states, the only purpose of this outrageous and illegal conduct is to intimidate American citizens and keep them from challenging a tyrannical administration and government presently controlled by the defendants, a government which seeks to control virtually all aspects of the plaintiffs, members of the class, and other Americans' lives to further its own defendants' agendas. Meaning basically they're making the claim that the United States is a dictatorial regime, which, in my personal opinion, I would say that it is. This is what they've put. They've put the accusation that the United States is a dictatorship into law. This is going to be their argument as to why this breach of the Constitution of the Fourth and Fifth Amendment, also the First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment of the Constitution has been carried out. See, now, this is why the lawsuit will not go through and why the Supreme Court will squash it. When you make an accusation like this in court and it's brought before the court, whether that be a civil court or a criminal court, whatever the ruling is, what they rule on your side, whatever it is that you claim becomes fact in law. Like, say, they accuse you of a crime, whether or not you did it is irrelevant after you've been convicted, because once you've been convicted under the law, this is truth. Whatever a judge decides becomes truth under the law, which means if they were to actually win this lawsuit, a court would have declared legally that it's truth that the United States is a dictatorship. And that places, that's a hell of a thing to get made law. I mean, a hell of a thing to be made truth in a court of law. Meaning there would be an official statement that the United States government is a dictatorship. Now, obviously, you can imagine they're not going to let that happen. This won't win. This won't go through. They're not actually going to let themselves be declared a dictatorship, which would be truth under the law, which would mean legally anyone who resisted the U.S. government through whatever means it is that they chose to do it would be legal. Because in truth, it's now a fact that the United States would be declared a dictatorship because of this. And that would open up for all kinds of secession. States could be leaving left and right. People would be killing cops under the assumption that there were, true or not, depending on the case, working on behalf of the U.S. government, which would be legally declared a dictatorship, which would make it legal for them to kill them in self-defense. As it says you have the right to overthrow the government when it comes tyrannical, ... So you can see the tremendous legal mess this would actually leave if it was won. More than likely what's going to happen in this situation is that it will go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will probably make that little section of it disappear if anything is to be paid out. More than likely the Supreme Court will make the whole thing, the whole lawsuit, completely disappear. Do you remember that lawsuit that took place not long after the 2008 global collapse of capitalism, where they sued the U.S. government for the bailout funds, TARP, money that was allegedly stolen, a whole ton of other stuff? And they were listing like an unbelievable amount of damages from the U.S. government and several banks. And that one just mysteriously disappeared very quietly as well, which I think is probably the same thing that's going to happen to this, assuming this ever reaches, the mainstream media. So, see, the thing is, a judge, like a lawyer, is a part of a corporation. That corporation is the law. Essentially, the law is like a trust, and they're all trustees. They're either they're trustees of the trust, which means that essentially their job is to first defend the system itself, which is the thing which gives them their authority, which is the United States government, and two, to defend the law itself and to act according to the law. Third is to seek justice. So you can see anything that you actually hire a lawyer for comes in third place after those two things. Now, obviously, a judge isn't going to literally just declare the government to be illegal. It's aside from the Supreme Court, which could do it, a judge from the circuit court can't do that. I mean, they literally can't just declare the U.S. government to be illegal. They literally cannot do that. So the regular judge in this case just can't make that ruling. So this will obviously have to go to the Supreme Court because of that. So you can see the kind of like the terrible jurisdictional mess this can actually turn into. Now, what I think is a huge mistake on their part is that this is not taking place in a court of equity. And for all the reasons you would choose a court of equity over an at-law court, ... Now, here's how we know for a fact that it is not a court of equity. Just Google that, it should tell you enough. Under the section Prayer for Relief, Section 4, the egregious misconduct of Judge Roger Vinson be forwarded to the judicial and other law enforcement authorities for appropriate disciplinary and other appropriate legal proceedings for violating the law and his oath of office to protect and uphold the U.S. Constitution. Meaning, they're asking for him to be prosecuted for what he's done. While if these allegations are true, which I tend to believe that they are, yes, he should be prosecuted. However, what this means is this cannot be a court of equity as a result, because you cannot obtain a conviction, or seek criminal charges in a court of equity. It only deals with the monetary amounts and stuff like that. You can't seek a criminal prosecution in that kind of a court. So we do know that this is not a court of equity, which means it's going to be held to the letter of the law, and the letter of the law basically states that a judge cannot rule the United States to be illegal. The Supreme Court could, but we know who appoints the Supreme Court and who they actually work for. And I can say that freely as a Canadian citizen who is outside their jurisdiction, at least for now. So to the people who filed this lawsuit, dudes, do it in a court of equity next time. On the off chance that this might actually work out, if you are a customer of Verizon or you think you may have been affected by this, get in contact with them, find out where they are, hook up with them, see if you can get yourselves involved in the class action lawsuit itself. Because, I mean, laws were violated here. The Constitution was violated. You have equitable rights in this situation. So I would say try to hook up with them and be a part of it. But basically, because this is taking place in an at-law court, given the jurisdiction of the court it was filed in and its inability to rule the United States a dictatorship, this won't go anywhere. I don't want to sound defeatist, but the law is what it is. If this teaches us anything, you can't bring down the federal government in a lawsuit. You're going to have to find, how do I put this, other ways of doing that.